Why hello there everybody! What are you doing in my house? In case you didn't realize, it's me, your good friend Sparky, bringing you a very professional analysis video. An analysis video of what? Why? ARMS! Or more specifically, the Super Smash Bros. Character that's going to be coming to ARMS, as recently announced. We have to wait all the way until June for this character to get here, and that makes me a very, very sad person. However, we can still have fun in the meantime by trying to figure out who this character is going to be. We weren't actually told who the character was going to be, just that they are from ARMS. Which is honestly surprising to me that there wasn't an ARMS character in the base game of Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, but I guess development time between Smash Ultimate and ARMS didn't really line up, so we just got some extra bonus inclusions instead of a full-on playable character. But all of that is going to change very soon, and in the meanwhile, it's our job as crazy obsessed Super Smash Bros. Players to figure out who's going to be the playable character. So we're going to take a quick look at each of these characters and deduce who is going to be the playable ARMS fighter. I'm just going to jump into a little bit of training so I don't actually have to worry about playing while I'm doing this, because I have only played ARMS maybe like 4 times. Right now there's like a free trial going on for Switch Online members, and it's really cool, and I really like this game, and I played it during like the online beta tests and stuff. But I haven't actually had the drive to buy it, because like most fighting games, whenever I actually try to play them, I am genuinely awful at them. Super Smash Bros. Is literally the one exception though. Not that I'm good at Smash Bros., but I like it better. So as mentioned, we're going to be doing a very professional analysis video because clearly I am the right person to be doing this, having barely played the game in the 3 years that it's been released. Yep. And by the way, I am playing with a GameCube controller because I'm awesome like that. I'm playing a game on my Switch with a GameCube controller through my Wii U controller adapter while wearing an NES hat and a Nintendo 64 shirt, because life is a circus like that. But yeah, we're just going to go through these characters one by one and determine if they are going to be the Super Smash Bros. Fighter, divided into 3 categories as per my professional analysis results. We are going to have a very likely category, a maybe category, and a not so likely category. And this is all going to be very professional and not opinion-based whatsoever. Maybe. So starting us off, we have Springman. Now, Springman is obviously like the poster boy for ARMS. He is on the box art. He is the first character that people saw. He is obviously the most appropriate character to be the playable ARMS representative, minus one giant elephant in the room, but we will get to that. Now, every ARMS fighter, of course, has the same basic abilities of stretchy arm punches and beating stuff up with them. But each ARMS fighter actually has unique attributes to them as well, as is appropriate for a fighting game. One of Springman's more unique abilities is the ability to parry incoming attacks, which is performed by holding the dash or jump button and releasing it at any time before max charge. So like you can charge up and there you go, they got that little swirly around him. That's the parry thing. The parry shield. The parry swirl. Another ability that we can't really demonstrate, considering we're battling against a training dummy, is that after a certain while, Springman's punches will be fully charged permanently, after he takes a certain amount of damage. Now, of course, one of the more important things about being a playable character in Super Smash Bros. Is having a certain uniqueness to the character. And unfortunately, Springman isn't that unique. Parrying attacks and a little bit of an increased damage output really isn't anything special when considering character attributes in Super Smash Bros. But he is still basically the face of ARMS, so it would make perfect sense for him to be the playable ARMS fighter. However, Springman's already in the game because he's an assist trophy. It really comes down to a question of if the development team is willing to make a character both a playable fighter and an assist character. And it's something that really hasn't been done before in Smash Bros., so it could be a pretty unique situation. Plus, if they do that, that also means Waluigi can be playable, which would be really, really cool. Sakurai, please. Please. And there's also the idea of just disabling the Springman Assist Trophy while Springman is being playable. That's perfectly logical. It's something that obviously can be done. It's actually done in several situations, depending on what stage you're playing on in Smash Ultimate. For example, if you're playing on Green Hill Zone, the Knuckles Assist Trophy won't appear because it's completely disabled. So it's really entirely possible to consider the fact that Springman could be the playable fighter and also be an assist trophy in the game at the same time. But there is also an alternative to doing that, and that lies in a different character in the ARMS lineup, right over here, Springtron. Springtron is obviously a robot version of Springman. And I'm going to say flat out that Springtron is probably not going to be the playable fighter that's going to be chosen because he's already a duplicate of an existing character. If anything, Springtron could make for a neat alternate costume to Springman. Springtron does have some unique attributes to him, so it's only fair that we take a look at them though. Much like Springman, he does have this parry maneuver he can do. But unlike Springman, he has this, which releases a shockwave that deflects incoming attacks, and also gives him a power boost for a little while. His attacks are permanently charged, he moves a little faster, so he's not exactly the same as Springman. But honestly, I don't see him being picked over Springman. He could make for an Echo Fighter, which would be cool. He could make for an alternate costume, which is obvious. But I have another theory of what they can do with Springtron. What I think could be done with good old Springtron here is, if Springman is a playable fighter, they could update the game and have Springtron replace the Springman Assist Trophy. So that way, we get to keep Springman in the game, we get to have him playable, and we get to keep his Assist Trophy at the same time. Whether that would permanently change the Springman Assist Trophy or only change it while Springman is fighting, I don't really know. It's just a theory, but I feel like it's one that could work out pretty well. So overall, depending on what they feel like doing with the character, we are going to be putting Springman in the very likely category of possible ARMS Smash Bros. Representatives, and Springtron, we're going to be putting him in the not very likely category. Just because he feels better suited as being an alternate costume, or maybe an Echo Fighter, or even maybe a replacement for the Assist Trophy. Okay, so we're done talking about Springman for now. Let's move on to Ribbon Girl. Ribbon Girl's playstyle, while she's got the punchies like everyone else, is all about air movement. She has multiple jumps, which she can do in the air, and she has multiple air dashes too, given enough height. Let's see if we can... yeah, there we go. Alright, so she can jump and dash, and she is all kinds of crazy in the air, which is kind of nuts. However, as far as unique Super Smash Bros. Characters go, literally everybody in Super Smash Bros. Can do that. Everyone can double jump, everyone has an air dash when dodging. Some characters can jump more than others, but as far as being a unique character goes, I don't think Ribbon Girl is going to be the playable choice. Now, this would put her in the very unlikely category, if not for the fact that she would actually make for a pretty good alternate costume to Springman. Because she and Springman's unique attributes are shared with pretty much the majority of the Super Smash Bros. Cast, it could make sense to just kinda combine the two. Like how Wii Fit Trainer has both a male and a female alternate, or Robin, or Byleth, or Corrin, pretty much almost every Fire Emblem character. Olimar has Alf as an alternate costume. It could be interesting to just have Springman and Ribbon Girl as one character. So, as a result, I'm going to put her in the very likely category as long as she and Springman are counted as the same fighter. Basically, for Ribbon Girl to make it into Super Smash Bros., Springman has to make it into Super Smash Bros., and then Ribbon Girl can be an alternate costume to Springman. That's actually one theory I did see floating around for this ARMS character, is that it's going to be one general ARMS fighter, but each costume is going to be a different ARMS character, kind of like how Bowser Jr.'s alternate costumes are the different Koopalings. But I don't really know if I want that to happen, because all of these playable fighters here are very unique. They do have a lot of unique attributes to them that make them individuals. You would want to play one over the other. And if you make them all alternate costumes of each other, that removes pretty much all uniqueness and personality that you would get out of these characters. So I don't really think that's going to happen. I don't really think I want that to happen, with the exception of Springtron and Springman, Ribbon Girl, just because they already share a lot of their unique attributes with the basic gameplay of Super Smash Bros. They would fit well being costumes of each other. But anyway, enough of that. Let us move on to our next character, Ninjara. I gotta say, I really like his chain design. It's really cool. Ninjara is, as his name would suggest, a ninja, and ninjas are really, really cool. Can't really show it because my opponent isn't fighting back right now, but when Ninjara blocks, he also will end up teleporting and evading some damage when he gets hit by attacks while blocking. And in addition to that, when he's in the air, his... wrong button. When he's in the air, his air dash also makes him poof and vanish, letting him evade attacks a lot more easily. That's really his whole gimmick. He evades attacks more easily, he's very stealthy, much like a ninja would be. Which is fine and all, but it does call into the problem that there's already a couple ninja-like characters on the Super Smash Bros. Roster. Both Greninja and Sheik are very quick, very evasive. Even other characters have teleports and things like that, which let them easily dodge out of the way of attacks. So, unfortunately, Ninjara, while I really love his design and he's got a cool stealthy playstyle, he's not really unique enough to really be considered as a playable character. The ninja quota is already filled, unfortunately. However, if they did want to include Ninjara, I think he also would be an acceptable alternate costume to an existing ARMS character. I don't think it would be the best choice, but if you're willing to throw away the poof ninja magic stuff, he could also make for a good alternate costume. But yeah, all things considered, I'm going to be putting Ninjara in the not very likely category, because his role is already filled. There's really no reason to include him. But enough about that, let's move on to the next fighter, Master Mummy. Of course, there are no mummies on the Super Smash Bros. Roster, so he's already got points in his favor. Master Mummy is all about defensive capabilities. He doesn't flinch from weak attacks, he reduces damage in some situations. He's just a big old brute that's really hard to hurt, and it makes him a bit of a beast to deal with. And also, in addition to that, when he's guarding, he recovers health, which is really annoying to fight against, honestly. So Master Mummy has a lot of unique attributes going for him. Though I don't really know how they would balance out a self-regenerativation. I don't really know how they would balance this out, where he recovers health. If he just recovered health while shielding, that would be a little too broken. So it would have to be like a special attack. And admittedly, Smash Ultimate already has a character that recovers health like that through Ness and Lucas and Robin, so it's not terribly unique. But at the same time, it's really hard to count Master Mummy out entirely. He is a very different kind of character. There are a lot of big brute characters on the Smash Ultimate roster, but one with kind of a defensive edge to him would be pretty refreshing, I think. So while I don't think he's the most likely character, just because of maybe some balancing issues with his unique skills, I think I'm gonna put Master Mummy in the maybe category. The middle of the road. He could be the playable fighter, but I don't entirely see it happening. Next up on our list is Min Min, who is ramen noodle themed, which is awesome. So one of Min Min's main things is this aerial kick, which deflects incoming attacks. Which isn't too terribly special, though it could make for an interesting addition to her aerial attacks, where she knocks away incoming attacks when she's performing them. But Min Min's other unique attribute is when she charges up and her arm turns into a dragon. And that's really cool. Her dragon arm stays permanently charged, and it does extra damage, and it's really, really awesome. And I actually did consider what this could be like if Min Min were playable in Super Smash Bros. Like, say Min Min makes it in, and you go to use a smash attack. And, you know, you do it quick, and it unleashes a quick, straightforward punch or something. But what if you stand there and charge your smash attack? In that case, Min Min's arm could do this whole dragon thing, and then the smash attack does extra damage. Or maybe you could apply it to a special move where you charge it long enough and eventually it transforms into the dragon. Overall, just considering the fact that Min Min has really unique attributes to her, like, basic movement and attack options, that could add to some interesting gameplay changes to her if she makes it into Super Smash Bros. Aerials that deflect incoming attacks, smash attacks, or special moves that could be charged longer and you get dragon powers. I think that would be really, really dang cool, honestly. Makes me wonder why I don't play Min Min more in this game. She is a really neat character. But just because she has those unique attributes that could be applied to her normal techniques, I'm going to put Min Min in the very likely category for being playable in Super Smash Bros. I think she could make for a really fun, playable fighter. Next up in our little list is Mechanica. Now, Mechanica is unique because, unlike other fighters that have these super stretchy arms, she does not, and she uses a robot suit instead, which is honestly something pretty awesome, I gotta say. I do like playing this character a lot. She's one of my go-to choices when playing, because she's a heavyweight character, she doesn't take as much hit stun or things like that, and she also has additional aerial options. She can hover, like that, with her jump. She has an extended dash range, I think. So she's kind of like a combination of Ribbon Girl and Master Mummy in a way. She has some of the best attributes of both of them, I think. And honestly, if Mechanica were to be the playable fighter in Super Smash Bros., we really don't have a character that's in, like, a robot suit or anything like that. The closest equivalent that comes to mind is Bowser Jr., and I don't know if you would count the clown car as, like, a mech? But when talking about Mechanica, you bring into the question of characters that represent ARMS the best. And when people think about ARMS, I'd like to think that they think about the stretchy arms. The whole extendable punches with the weird spiral arms and the spiral eye pattern, which is all super unique and interesting. It's all definitely a very Nintendo thing. So when you consider a character that you want to be in Super Smash Bros. To represent ARMS and that stretchy arm mechanic and the characters with the stretchy arms, unfortunately Mechanica doesn't really fit very well because she doesn't actually have the stretchy arms. Now I know that the term ARMS also refers to these, the weapons that they use in combat. You mix and match them, and that's where some more of the unique gameplay comes from in, well, ARMS. So of course Mechanica fits with everyone else when that is considered, but you really have to consider the fact that it's called ARMS because they have stretchy arms. And when you bring into a character that has stretchy arms but doesn't, you really have to consider if they represent the game the way that it should be represented in Super Smash Bros. So overall, I'm gonna end up putting Mechanica in the maybe category, the middle of the road. Where she would make a very unique Super Smash Bros. Fighter, I don't think she represents the ARMS game well enough to be the playable ARMS representative. And actually, there's a similar issue with the next character, Twintale. Now, of course, I'm sure people would want Twintale to be playable in Super Smash Bros. For, obvious reasons. And Twintale also does have some unique attributes in her dashes and movement options, where she can hover in the air like that and slow down incoming attacks. I don't really totally understand, like, how the whole thing works, but she can slow down incoming attacks, and that helps charge her punches as well while she's up there, so she has a lot of unique options for just messing with the opponent as you're playing with them. In some sense, with the way she slows down attacks, she does give off kind of a Bayonetta vibe, because Bayonetta does have her counter down B, which can slow down the opponent. I will fully admit that having Twintale in Smash Bros. Could lead to a very unique character with the way she manipulates the opponent. But overall, she has the same problem that Mechanica has. Rather than fighting with stretchy arms, she fights with something else. She fights with her hair. Which is honestly really cool, really unique. In that sense, having Twintale as a playable fighter would definitely be super interesting. But much like Mechanica, she doesn't have the stretchy arms that makes ARMS what it is. So I'm going to be putting her in the maybe category as well. Moving on, next up is Bite and Bark. Now, Bite and Bark's entire gimmick is that they function as a duo. From what I understand, Bite on his own is not a terribly great character, but he does have Bark. Bark kind of moves around on his own, and he has his own attack, and if you guard, he gets in front, and you can jump on him to get an extra high boost, and things like that. So really, these two come down to working together as a duo, which unfortunately is not a terribly unique thing in Super Smash Bros. There's characters like Duck Hunt and Banjo-Kazooie, which are two characters acting as one. And there's also characters who have, like, a partner which acts with them, much like the Ice Climbers, or Rosalina and Luma, or the Olimar and his Pikmin. There are several characters that have that attribute in Super Smash Bros. Already, where they fight as a team, or they fight with a minion, something like that. So unfortunately, I'm gonna have to put Bite and Bark in the not very likely category, just because there's not a lot that's very unique to them when considering the Super Smash Bros. Ultimate roster. I do know it's gonna be hard to find stuff that is unique with such a huge roster of characters to compete with, but Bite and Bark, they just don't fit very well. But moving on from that, we have next Kid Cobra. Now, Kid Cobra's whole gimmick revolves around maneuverability. He's not too terribly special when he doesn't have his arms charged up, but when he's powered up, just look at him go, man. He really moves around, and he can actually dodge under incoming attacks with a forward dash. You move forward, avoid attacks, and then you launch your attacks. Attack, attack, attack. He is all about just being on the move constantly, and admittedly, that could be a little interesting to see in Super Smash Bros. But that being said, he's not really the only character that's all about speed. You've got a lot of quick-moving characters in Super Smash Bros. With lots of maneuverability options that just really mess around with the opponent. The fast characters are usually some of the best characters, like Sheik and Fox and Captain Falcon. And of course, you've got characters like Sonic who are all about speed and just constantly moving, and you really have to work to keep up with them if you got a really good Sonic player, let me tell you. But because of that, Unfortunately, Kid Cobra, even though he's got a really cool design, I like this character a lot, he just doesn't have anything that puts him above other characters that I would say, this character deserves to be in Super Smash Bros. He can wiggle around and slide under attacks. Well, Simon Belmont and Mega Man can slide too, Kid Cobra. Sorry about that. So yeah, that's two not very likely characters in a row, which admittedly is a little disappointing. But next, we've got definitely a very unique character, Helix. Of all the characters in ARMS, Helix is definitely probably the most unique of the bunch. He is just like a wiggly goo man, and his whole gimmick is being a wiggly goo man. If you dash, you can duck down and avoid attacks. If you hold down the jump button, you can extend your body and wiggle wobble around while you're fighting. He's just all about being able to manipulate his body in a way that really helps him to avoid attacks and mess around with the opponent. He is definitely a very unique fighter, for sure. And admittedly, there's nothing like him really in Super Smash Bros. I can't think of any character that would share attributes like this. That being said, while he is super unique, and I will fully admit would be a very, very unique playable fighter in Super Smash Bros., I hate this thing. I hate this thing so much. I hate the way he sounds. I don't like the way he looks. Just looking at his stupid, gooey, weird face, I just... No. I just don't think that I would want him anywhere near Smash Brothers. So he's going in his own category, down at the bottom. He's going in the hatred category. He's going to have that category by himself. Okay? So, Helix, you are super unique, and you would probably make a really unique fighter in Super Smash Bros., but please stay as far away as possible from Super Smash Bros. Thank you. Anyway, moving on, we've got Max Brass up next. Now, Max Brass actually shares Springman's ability to parry incoming attacks, but he does have a unique attribute of his own, where he buffs himself up, actually changes his size, and like permanently buffs his attacks for a while, which is pretty crazy, I gotta say. Just look how freaking muscular this guy gets. He's nuts. It's actually kind of interesting too, because another one of his attributes is that when he's below a certain amount of health, his attacks become permanently charged, just like Springman. So he has both Springman's parry attack and Springman's attack buffing attributes, which kind of negates the uniqueness of Springman? I guess the offshoot is that when Max Brass is buffed up, he does change size, so he becomes a bigger target, but he also resists some flinching and damage like heavyweight characters when in that state, I'm pretty sure. So I don't know, Max Brass just seems like he's a better Springman overall, which is weird. But we're not talking about the uniqueness of this character in ARMS, we're talking about the uniqueness of this character in Smash Bros. And I will fully admit, having a character with passive buffs from like his normal attacks or something would be pretty interesting. However, just overall, a character that powers up his moves and stuff like that, while this changes his size, which is unique, he's not the first character to be able to do that. You've got stuff like Wii Fit Trainer's Down B, you've got stuff like Shulk's Minato Arts, and you've got stuff like Incineroar's Revenge Counter, which boosts his attack strength. So overall, Max Brass doesn't really have a heck of a lot going on for him that would make him a very unique Smash Bros. Fighter. Just mainly the size-changing aspect of the character would be interesting, I guess, which is a weird thing to say. Plus, I can't be the only one that gets Captain Falcon vibes from this guy. Just like the helmeted design and the way his eyes look, he seems like a super buff, stretchy-armed Captain Falcon. So while I don't think he would make for a unique playable character, you could have him as a stretchy-armed Captain Falcon Echo Fighter? I don't know. I'm going to put Max Brass in the maybe category. That seems like the best fit for him. I'm not going to count him out completely, but I really don't think he's going to be the character people go for. So moving on, our next character is Lola Pop. She's a clown with nunchucks. That is terrifying. So Lola Pop's whole gameplay gimmick revolves around her guarding, which is this. Yep. Weird fetishy jokes aside, it actually does provide her some added maneuverability while she's guarding, giving her some increased movement options while she's defending, which is pretty interesting. Also, if you hold down the dash button in the air, it lets her guard while dashing, which is pretty neat. But the question is, do I think that she'd make a very good Super Smash Bros. Character? And I really don't know. I don't have a lot of strong opinions on Lola Pop as far as her Smash compatibility. But overall, I'm gonna put Lola Pop in the maybe category. I don't think she's very likely to show up as a playable fighter, honestly. Next, following up Lola Pop, is Nissen Go. Misango. Mi-san-go. My-san-go. I don't know how to say his name. Now overall, Nissen Go doesn't have a heck of a lot going on for him. On his own, he has pretty basic attributes as far as I know, but what really makes this character unique is the little spirit dude with him. When you charge up, the spirit joins with you and you gain bonus attributes depending on what color it is. The red form is mostly about attack strength and things like that, and defensive strength, I think. The blue form is all about maneuverability, and the yellow form helps him charge up his rush gauge a bit faster. The little yellow triangle down there. And it's difficult to show off during training considering you just wail on your opponent. So his whole gameplay gimmick is about using his little spirit buddy to alter his stats, which is actually really cool. I like this guy a lot. I don't see many people, like, talking about this character, or, like, I don't know what his popularity is, but just giving yourself the ability to adjust your status and change up your gameplay style on the fly like that is pretty interesting. But as addressed with Max Brass, having a character who adjusts their stats with special moves and things like that really is not anything unique. If you were to put this guy in Super Smash Bros. And implement his little mask spirit buddy and his stat adjusting powers, it would be kind of like if you had Shulk and his Monado arts, but you only had 3 options. So overall, his unique attributes, they're not really as unique in Super Smash Bros., so while he's a cool character, I'm gonna have to put him in the maybe slot. There's potential here for a cool Smash fighter, but his gimmick is kind of covered already. And the last character on our list, since we already went over Springtron a little bit earlier, is Dr. Coil. Now, I might be a little biased going into this, but I love this lady. She is awesome. She's probably my favorite character in this game. To start off, Dr. Coil is constantly floating. She does not have a jump, so she can adjust her height and levitate and guard and dash basically at whatever altitude she wants to, which is pretty awesome. Also, if you charge up, you can gain an additional arms attack, which is really cool. It just pops out of her shoulder like that, and it's kind of amazing. And while you're guarding, she can turn invisible for a little while, which is also really cool. She has a lot of cool stuff going on for her gameplay-wise, and she has a really cool design. And she's, I think, what you would consider the main villain of the game. Even though I don't think there's, like, a story mode with a big bad guy to fight at the end, to the best of my knowledge. And it would be really cool to have a female villain playable in Super Smash Bros. And while it would be weird to have a villain that's playable and not a hero, I think Dr. Coil definitely deserves a spot in the very likely top picks from this game to be playable in Super Smash Bros. At least in my humble opinion. And there you have it. That is every ARMS character analyzed for their potential to be a playable fighter in Super Smash Bros. So just as a quick recap, the characters that I believe are most likely to make it into Super Smash Bros. Ultimate through the ARMS DLC are Springman, with an alternate costume Ribbon Girl, Min, and Dr. Coil. They all, to me, in my opinion, have very high chances to make it as that DLC fighter. Though as far as Springman is concerned, it all depends on how Mr. Sakurai and his team want to deal with the Springman Assist Trophy already being in the game. Having Springtron show up as the Assist Trophy in place of Springman would be pretty interesting. Springtron could also make for a good alternate costume to Springman. Following up those three, some other semi-likely picks are Master Mummy, Mechanica, Twintale, Max Brass, Lola Pop, and Nissen Go. They all have a maybe chance of being in there. And down at the bottom, probably Ninjara, Bite and Bark, Kid Cobra, and definitely Helix. But yeah, that concludes my little analysis of which characters from ARMS I think are most likely to make it into Super Smash Bros. Ultimate. There can only be one pick, unless they have multiple ARMS characters in the DLC for some reason, which I don't think they will. But regardless, that wraps it up for now. Thank you very much for watching. This was a bit of a different video for me, so I hope it turned out good. I hope you enjoyed it, and I will see you next time. Until then, Sparky is signing off for now. I'll catch you later.